Welcome everyone to Deep Waters here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel where we take a deeper dive into boxing's top stories. I am George DeMatteis filling in for Jimmy Smith, and it's always a good time when you got ESPN analyst Tim Bradley and the Magic Man Paulie Malignaggi, and here in studio, the fighting collegian Chris Algieri. All right, gentlemen, we are exactly a month away from one of the most stacked boxing cards we've seen in a long time in Los Angeles, and it'll be headlined by Terrence Crawford, probably the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. He is moving up in weight, Tim, to take on Ismail Madrimov. What do you see in that fight between Crawford and Madrimov?
Well, first of all, let's talk about Joel Diaz, because Diaz has experience in facing Crawford. I remember when he had, who was it? It was actual Diaz. It was at 100 and I believe it was 140 pounds. He faced the Olympian. I forget his first name right off the top, but he's a southpaw gold medalist. Well, Felix Diaz. Yeah, Felix Diaz. And also, he also had him in a training camp with myself, 2 times on 2 occasions. And, Joel knows what he's up against, believe it or not. We accomplished 5 world championships together. He told me exactly how my career was going to go, and it went exactly like how he said it was going to go. So he has experience, unlike other trainers that never done it at the professional level or ever been a prize fighter. He has experience to be able to tell Madrimov exactly what he needs to do, how he needs to behave, what's going to happen once he gets to the show, what Crawford's going to do, or at least attempt to do. So he has a ton of information to be able to share with Madrimov. And on top of that, a lot of people, let's go back to when, because Bivol trains at his gym. Let's go back to that when Bivol was facing Canelo Alvarez. They believed that Bivol was going to win. They believed that they had the goods, and Joel was guiding him through it and helping him get ready for Canelo Alvarez. And they actually went in there and actually pulled off the upset. So it's not a far-gone conclusion that Crawford just going to go in there and walk through Madrimov. Crawford definitely going to have to earn his money that night and to win the championship, but I'm expecting a hell of a fight coming when they step foot inside that ring.
Yeah, Paulie, what do you make of that matchup between Crawford and Madrimov?
You know what? It's a lot of interesting things when you think about it, because Crawford just constantly looks unbeatable. There's so many dimensions to him, so many layers to his style, and layers to the style in both stances. There's layers in each stance that he fights in. Is multiple layers to that style. Plus he's got both stances to begin with. So Crawford is just amazing on so many aspects, and that's why he's the best fighter in the world right now. But at the age he's fighting, you just don't know if one fight to the next you step into the ring and you got old. It's one of those things where it happens at this age. It can happen at this age. We haven't seen any signs of it, and you wonder. But of course, you got to always keep that in mind that, Crawford can step in the ring and maybe it's not quite the same Crawford as you got used to seeing as the Crawford we gotten to know and love. Having said that, we haven't seen that yet. We've just seen him dominate. So we can go in with that expectation while keeping our eyes open to any possible slippage. The reason I bring that up is because Madrimov is no slouch. Madrimov is a guy who, can make you look bad. He can beat you. He's turned pro and sort of made a quick run of it because of the crazy amateur experience a lot of those guys in Eastern Europe have. And he's a natural 154-pounder. He's got that going for him as well. Not that has seemed to bother Crawford because he's carried up his power very well. But nonetheless, there's things you can look at in this fight that I like it more and more as it gets closer. I think when it first gets signed, it's just like, the Crawford show where you're looking at Crawford to be Madrimov, and then you're talking about, is he going to fight Canelo? Is he going to fight at a higher weight class? But I think that's selling Madrimov a little short if you just look at him as somebody who Crawford is going to get through on the way to the big fight with Canelo. I think this Madrimov fight it can be a bit of a threat. Madrimov is a hungry guy. He's still a guy who knows his value, knows his worth, but inside the ring, but outside the ring hasn't gotten the recognition he may want, and that's because he doesn't have all those crazy amount of professional fights at a high level. I think this is a big opportunity for him as well. I like this fight, and I'm very curious. It can go in various ways for various reasons.
All right, Chris, what's your take on this Madrimov and Crawford fight?
I think it's a big threat. I think Madrimov, I've called a number of his fights on the way up. He doesn't have that much pro experience, but he's got a tremendous amateur background. He's physically strong. He's a good-sized junior middleweight. He's super athletic. He's one of those guys who does backflips after his fights. I've seen him do things in the ring That speaks to his athleticism, his strength, his physical power, and obviously he's got the boxing skill. He's very, very confident. He said, "This is my weight class. He's coming up to my weight class. This is Crawford's, fourth attempt at a different weight class, fighting for a world title, and he's got a guy there who wants to defend what he's got. And I think Madrimov has the right idea. I think the Joel Diaz aspect is really important, as Tim Bradley, ESPN analyst, mentioned, and. I like that little Bivol story as well, because it just gives you to the mindset of what's going on in that gym. That gym culture is really important in this kind of situation. Because listen, for all intents and purposes, Madrimov's in over his head, you would think. But it seems like he's got all the right answers and the right culture around the gym to be prepared for the moment and to bring his best version of himself. And if he brings the best version of himself, yeah, he's very much a threat to even the great Terence Crawford.
All right, we're going to continue this discussion about Madrimov and Crawford on the other side here on Deep Waters. Welcome back to Deep Waters. August 3rd, it's going to be Terence Crawford versus Ismail Madrimov. And Madrimov very confident, saying that Crawford is coming up to my weight class, but he only has 10 professional fights. ESPN analyst Tim Bradley, what do you make of the comments of Madrimov and his relative inexperience at the pro level?
Man, they're talking about inexperience. Stop. I mean,
Okay.
he got 10. That's what everybody's saying. He only has 10 fights. Crawford's fighting somebody with 10 fights. This dude had 300 amateur fights. He's a pro. The Cubans.
He's the world champion.
I mean, come on, dude. I mean, the Cubans, the Uzbekistans, the Russians, all these guys, they stay in the pro game for a very long time. I mean, the amateur game for a very long time. They're pretty much pros. This guy fought his first professional fight. He went 10 rounds. Who does that? Nobody. Only someone that's seasoned, that believes in himself, that have the skills to be able to do that, man. As you know.
And he turned pro. Tim, his pro debut was against Vladimir Hernandez, who we just had as a main event on ProBox TV.
Yeah.
Win by knockout. His pro debut.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't look into how many fights somebody has. I mean, this is like I call this era of boxing like the Lomachenko era. No one's waiting till they be 20-0, 25-0 to fight for a world championship. Yes, you have a few in the game that still go that route, but these fighters that come in from these different countries, they don't have to be in boxing that long or be a professional that long to be able to compete against the very best. As you can see with 10 professional fights, he's already won a world championship, and now he's getting an opportunity to face one of the best fighters of this generation, Terence Crawford. Now, let's talk about the fight in general. Where do I see Crawford, or do I see Madrimov can have an opportunity to land on Crawford? And that's early. Crawford, as you know, he takes his time to download information. Once he gets in his rhythm, once he figures out your sequences, then that's when he starts to overcome you. But in the early part of the fight, especially with the inactivity that he's had, I mean, he's been out of ring for over a year now, right? I wonder if Crawford, if he gets touched, how he's going to react. Because Madrimov, as you said, he's very awkward. He switches left and right. He changes up his rhythm all the time. You have to be really explosive and athletic to be able to deal with Crawford and what he's able to do inside the ring. But I think early on, that's where he's going to have his advantage. As the fight goes on, I think Crawford, if he's there still, I think he takes over the fight late and possibly get a stoppage late, because Madrimov, his problem is he gets too reckless. You can't be reckless against Crawford. You have to be patient. You have to take your time. You have to change your rhythm up, and you cannot allow him to get in his rhythm.
Yeah, Paulie, what do you make of the comments that he's saying this is my division, 154, and then the fact that only 10 pro fights?
Yeah, I think when you look at Terence Crawford, his division was 135 pounds. So he's gone to other people's division already and done the job. Especially when you think about the welterweight division, he went from 135, went to 140, got the undisputed title. But what he was doing at 147 pounders, those were guys that it was their division. Avanesian was a full-blown welterweight. Errol Spence, a full-blown welterweight. Kell Brook, full-blown welterweights. Jeff Horn, full-blown welterweights. All these guys were welterweights that barely can make welterweight. They're big, big welterweights. And manhandled Jeff Horn, who honestly was a physical guy himself at welterweight. Manhandled that. Really opened my eyes. Stop Kell Brook with a jab, so the punching power brings up. Drop Errol Spence with a jab. The first knockdown of that fight. And Avanesian, one punch knockout, a guy who's got a very sturdy chin. I don't even know if Avanesian had ever been stopped, been in tough with everybody, had even pulled off some upsets. Maybe not at the world-class highest level, Avanesian, but he was a very, very rugged European fringe world contender guy who had been a European champion, had stopped some good fighters himself. Crawford knocked him out with one punch. So, you know what? It was their weight class as well, and Crawford was able to come up and do that. So I don't know that Madrimov saying he's coming up to my weight class is really something that you can hang your hat on. There's other things you can hang your hat on if you're Madrimov, but for me, the one thing I look at is Crawford's age. You just never know if you get in the ring and you're a little bit older. The other stuff, hey man, Crawford's doing it.
All right, Chris, let me ask you this. Do you think that Crawford is maybe overlooking Madrimov because there's that big payday down the road, possibly with Canelo Alvarez?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I think Crawford's too smart for that. I think he understands what's in front of him. I think he understands also he's at the tail end of his career. This is his twilight.
Yeah, 36 years old.
You know, he's approaching his swan song, his way out. You know, and he understands what's in front of him. He's a dead focused guy. I mean, he lives in the gym. He trains at all. Like at the gym, I spoke about gym culture in that last segment. Talk about gym culture. That's Crawford and his team, and those guys. He's in everybody's camp together with them. You know, they've got something I've rarely seen in gyms in terms of, you know, the culture that's around that gym and the relationships that they all have. No, I don't foresee Crawford looking past this man. He knows he's dangerous. You know, I kind of look at Madrimov and I kind of look at like a combination between two of Crawford's past fight. Mean Machine Kavalauskas and Sean Porter, our own Sean Porter. I look at those two guys in those two fights, and I very much see similarities in terms of what those guys bring to the table. Kavalauskas, very, very strong. And Tim, I'm sure you remember, he gave Crawford trouble early on. And a lot of people thought that he got rocked and might have got knocked down. But either way, Kavalauskas was very much in that fight because of his physicality, because of his physical strength, and because he was aggressive. Like you said, that early on, Madrimov is going to have some opportunities. But then also Sean is another guy who is extremely, extremely aggressive, but he's more athletic than a Kavalauskas is. He's more explosive, more jumping in. And I've seen that from Madrimov. He can be very athletic and explosive. You know, I mentioned him doing backflips after fights. He can close the distance really well. So I look at that like that. There's kind of Sean. And then you pack it up with that physical strength and that sturdiness of a Kavalauskas. Could be a very, very rough night early on. But just like in both of those fights, to your point, Tim, I could very much see Crawford figuring it out and getting the stoppage late.
Yeah, Kavalauskas losing in the 9th round to Terence Crawford, and Sean Porter losing in the 10th round to Terence Crawford. So to Tim's point, if it goes later in the fight, it's Crawford.
Both of those fights, Crawford said, "Oh, it's time to knock this guy out," and he decided, "I'm going to do it." At Kavalauskas, he was like, you could tell he literally got mad, just went out there and just beat him up until it was over. And Sean, he literally in the corner. They said, "You're down." He goes, "I'm down." Goes out there and knocks him out that round. Like, that's the kind of guy Crawford is.
All right, we'll continue this discussion and talk more about that August 3rd fight card here on Deep Waters. Welcome back to Deep Waters here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. Now, there was a song, a rap song back in the 90s. It's called La Raza from Kid Frost. It might be relevant compared when you talk about this fight card there. Heavy Latino influence on this card. And if you talk about Latinos and being the feature, you got to talk about Isaac Pitbull Cruz. He will be putting his title on the line against Jose Valenzuela. And Sean Gibbons, the advisor to Pitbull Cruz, says that he's really kind of, for lack of a better term, maybe the headliner, the one that's bringing the crowd out to L.A. for this August 3rd fight card. Paulie, let me start with you here. First of all, what do you see from this fight between Pitbull Cruz and Jose Valenzuela?
You know what? It's a good fight. Valenzuela coming off a big win over Chris Colbert. After he lost a close decision to him. Valenzuela is always a kind of an enigma. You know, sometimes he gives you some really good performances. He's always in a fight. Never doesn't really shy away from taking on the elite fighters. At least not the elite fighters, but the risk fights. He's chasing the elite fighters, but the risk fights. And Pitbull is another one of those risk fights. I expect a solid action fight here because Pitbull always brings action, and Valenzuela never really shies away from it. As far as Gibbons talking about that, he's the sort of the unnamed main event because a lot of people have a Pitbull mania. I could say so. I mean, I could see that being the case. California, LA in general, Southern California in general has a big Mexican population. This card has guys like Pitbull Cruz on it. It has Andy Ruiz on it. Initially it had Virgil Ortiz before the Tim Tszyu fight fell out, but I could see that Southern California Mexican Chicano influence there, and so that you could see how Pitbull Cruz would be a fan favorite on this night. And of course, it's not really hard to be for Pitbull Cruz to be a fan favorite with all cultures across the board. He's a fun fighter to watch, regardless of whether you're Mexican or not.
All right, Chris, what do you make of Pitbull Mania for this August 3rd card, maybe overshadowing the main event of Madrimov and Crawford?
I think in terms of the gate, yeah. He's going to be the draw, but in terms of who's tuning in on the pay-per-views, it's probably going to be more Crawford than anything. People want to see Crawford when he fights, But when it comes to gate and what it's going to sound like in there, yeah, it's going to be Mexico in there, and Isaac Cruz is going to be a big draw for that. Listen, Pitbull Mania I think is a real thing. He just had that big win over Rolly Romero. I mean, that really sent shockwaves throughout the world in terms of people tuning into Isaac Cruz, made him a star, and that was only his last fight. So I still think we're riding that wave, and you're going to see that on Fight Night. You're going to hear it in the crowd. And in terms of his opponent, Valenzuela's only losses, Paul, you were talking about Valenzuela. He lost to De Los Santos, and he dropped him, by the way. And his other loss was to Chris Colbert, who he dropped as well and lost a very disputed decision, and then rematched him and knocked him dead. So Valenzuela is a very dangerous guy. Another guy doesn't have a lot of experience in terms of how many fights he has, but it's a dangerous guy. Does he stand a chance against Isaac Cruz? Yes, because he can punch and he is good, but it's definitely a tall order. I would imagine that Isaac Cruz would be highly regarded to win this fight, but it'll be fun while it lasts because both guys like to be in shootouts. Isaac Cruz, you know what you get. He's coming in the front door. He's going to try and beat you up from pillar to post. And Valenzuela, he's a sharpshooter. He can hit. He can punch. And he finds those little gaps. So very interesting fight. And it's going to get the crowd very hyped up. We'll put it that way.
All right, ESPN analyst Tim Bradley, what do you make of Pitbull Mania and how it will impact that card on August 3rd?
I mean, it has a little bit to do with the card. I think that everybody that are contributing on the card has something to do with it, but it's a main show. It's Crawford we talking about. I've covered Crawford for many years. Everywhere Crawford has gone, he's pretty much damn near sold out. He has a huge following. Omaha, they come out and support. It don't matter where he fights at, they come out and support. When he fought against Sean Porter, I mean, that's black on black crime right there. And the place, the joint was sold out. I'm letting y'all know right now. So, people come out, man, and you're in LA. So all the celebrities gonna come out. Turkey gonna have all the celebrities there. They don't want to miss a Crawford fight. I mean, Eminem walked them out. Come on now. And Eminem is one of the GOATs of rapping. So I would say a little bit. I would say he has a little bit to do with it, but I think ultimately it boils down to Crawford. He sells, guys. He does.
Andy Ruiz also will be stepping into the ring against Jarrell Big Baby Miller. A little bit of irony there, or a connection there, because it was Big Baby who was supposed to fight Anthony Joshua. He got popped for PEDs. Andy Ruiz took his place and then stunned the heavyweight world by knocking out Anthony Joshua. So there's that. What is that? The 6 degrees of separation coming together?
First and last Mexican heavyweight champion of the world.
Andy Ruiz. So how much, Chris? How much is that going to bring out the crowd here, or what should we expect from that fight?
I mean, I don't know, because I mentioned that Andy Ruiz was, the first Mexican heavyweight world champion, which is a big deal, but he's been so inactive, and we haven't seen him in so long. I don't know how much the fans are going to be clamoring for that event, especially, it's not a title fight. He's fighting Jerome Miller, who hasn't been as active either. Also gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes, or oftentimes lately. So I don't know how much that fight in particular is going to move the needle. But like you said, Champ, I mean, you got Crawford at the top, and you've got Isaac Cruz, who are a bit of a Pitbull mania. I don't know how much it's really going to matter about Andy Ruiz. Definitely popular heavyweight, definitely obviously a Mexican in that LA area. But I'm not sure about that one, just because of the inactivity and the fact that we haven't seen him be active.
Yeah, Ruiz's last fight was September of 2022 when he beat Luis Ortiz. All right, Paulie, what do you make of this fight between Andy Ruiz and Big Baby Miller?
The big guys, man. Come on, the big boys. I don't care if Ruiz hasn't been active or Jarrell Miller coming off the loss of Dubois. It's still the big guys, man. And the big guys, when they lay down the thunder, you imagine Miller going down against Ruiz, or Miller coming back and rejuvenating his career, or against Ruiz, the guy who took his spot in beating Anthony Joshua in that fight as well. In a fight that Miller had already been promoting. You know, remember he pushed Joshua at the press conference. It was all that promotion. Ruiz just rolled the wave and then came in and knocked out Joshua. So now, you know, they can kind of settle it in the ring. It's the big boys. It's the heavyweights. People always get excited. Even casuals love the big heavyweights, man. So, yes, the name recognition maybe isn't as big as Pitbull or as big, definitely not as big as Crawford. But Ruiz has been a major piece of the heavyweight puzzle in this generation. Jarrell Miller has had some solid results as well. Controversial also with the PED failures. PEDs, you know, controversy sells, and also PEDs today. You know, they're rampant more than you realize, right? So, and we've seen that with other guys failing as well. So
Jarrell does hype a fight though, champ. Like you said, Jarrell really gets people going. He's got a good mouthpiece.
And I'm curious. And I'm curious to see how that goes, because honestly, it's Jarrell's last chance, really. I mean, he's coming off. He's lost to. Has he lost 2 in a row? He's lost to Dubois for sure.
Dubois. Oh no, I'm
anyway, either way, he's got to get the momentum back on track here. You know, he's still a solid heavyweight, even if he's not what he was before. He's still a solid heavyweight. Honestly, we don't know about Ruiz either. He's been so inactive. So this is a sort of give us some answers kind of heavyweight fight, you know? And it's between two guys that have that name recognition. Maybe they're not at the very, very top anymore. They still have that name recognition. And a win for one of these guys in this fight puts him a bit into the heavyweight picture for maybe who knows, maybe the winner of Joshua and Dubois.
Yeah, Big Baby Miller lost to Dubois. That was his last fight. Only one loss in his pro career. So that's
the winner gets the Jared Anderson winner if he's able to beat this guy. He's fighting Tim. You're shaking your head. Let me know what you're thinking.
Yes, we want to hear
Miller, fat and lazy, man. That's why he be on the dude. Fat and lazy, bro. Come on. He lost to Dubois, bro. Come on, if Ruiz don't slap him around, man, and beat the crap out of him and damn near stop him, there's gonna be a problem for Ruiz. And I know he's been inactive or whatever, but man, he's just the better skilled fighter, heavyweight here. You know, those quick hands and that power that he possesses, man. He knows how to get himself in position to be able to land his offense, man. And Miller, I mean, Miller is what he is. He's just a guy in there. He's gonna try to win, but I don't think he's gonna beat Andrew Ruiz. And this might be the end of the road for him. He's just going to be a stepping stone type of fighter for various heavyweights out there. Anybody that wants to get in the ring and step in the ring with that guy. But as far as the overall show, man, this is going to be a great, fantastic show. I hope I can be there. I want to see this live. You know, this is one of the best cards that I've ever seen, that I've ever, you know, witnessed or going to witness someday soon. But yeah, this is going to be a hell of a card. I can't wait. And the fans, y'all should tune in and buy that pay-per-view because they got some really good fights on this card.
Yeah, 3 world title fights on that card. By the way, Big Baby Miller, to your point, Tim, in that last fight against Dubois, he weighed in at 333 pounds.
Fat and lazy.
There you go. All right, quick break. We'll talk more here on Deep Waters. Welcome back to Deep Waters. We are discussing that August 3rd fight card as we are exactly a month away from that fight card in Los Angeles. All right, I'm going to ask our champions here, what fight are they looking most forward to watching? ESPN analyst Tim Bradley, I will start with you, sir.
Crawford Madrimov, the headline. That's what I mean. I'm waiting to see what Crawford is going to do at this new weight class. We haven't seen him since Earl Spence Jr. And that fight, and the way he destroyed Earl Spence Jr. My gosh, I can't wait to see what he looks like at 154 pounds. Look, I get inside information on Crawford, man. The guy stays in the gym, lives in the gym. He takes his vacation. Then he comes back into the gym, and then he spars 15 rounds. The guy is not normal. I've seen this guy lift 400 pounds at 150 pounds, literally deadlift, all right? I've seen this guy just step on the track and run a 4.540. Like, no problem. He is so athletic. He is so damn gifted, and he lives like a Spartan. He don't drink. He don't smoke. He takes care of his body. This dude don't even eat pork. He don't even eat beef. He eats chicken and fish. That's all he eats. So I'm looking forward to seeing the main event, Terrence Bud Crawford.
All right, Paulie, which fight are you looking most forward to seeing on August 3rd?
I'll tell you what, the great thing about these Turki Al-Ashik cards is that they're all terrific cards top to bottom. You know, they've taken away the whole, you know, make it top heavy and give you a BS undercard that boxing was giving us for a little while. You know, we're going back to the entire card being stacked. And that's where Turki Al-Ashik does get a lot of credit here in making these matchups. So as far as, even if I've got a favorite one, First of all, my favorite one, I'll tell you straight up, it already fell out. It was Tim Tszyu and Virgil Ortiz. That one fell out because of Tim Tszyu's cut. That was going to be my favorite one. But otherwise, even if I've got a favorite one, which is going to be Crawford, Crawford moves the needle in different directions because you're thinking about how he's going to look in this fight. Can he beat Madrimov? Is Madrimov being underappreciated going into this fight and sort of underrated going into this fight? He's a very, very dangerous opponent. Crawford is a little bit older. Madrimov's a natural 54-pounder. Madrimov has a ton of amateur experience. He's a very, very dangerous, good fighter. It's a fight that I'm looking forward to for all those reasons. But again, just because I got that favorite fight doesn't mean the rest of the card is just a slouch card where you just sit there hanging around at your fight party that you have at your house and talk to your friends, don't even pay attention, like some of those more recent pay-per-view cards we'd had in years past, where it was just main event. I mean, I've worked some of those pay-per-views, honestly, man. I worked some of those Mayweather pay-per-views that were atrocious, and it was just Mayweather at the top. So, honestly, Crawford fight moves the needle for me. I love it. But at the same time, this is a terrific card. Loved all the fights on this card. Can't wait to watch.
All right, Chris, the question is to you. Which one are you looking forward to on August 3rd?
Man, for me, it's Bud.
Bud.
And every time Bud fights, it's going to be Bud because there's not that many more left. Bud is at the twilight of his career. He's only got a couple more fights for us to watch. He is an incredible athlete, like you said, Tim, and he's special. And the chances for us to see him live and to see new Bud experiences are coming to a close. So anytime Bud fights, that's my favorite fight on the card.
I just randomly had a thought, man. I mean, we keep saying Bud. How has the beer not sponsored Terrence Crawford?
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't drink beer, bro. You don't drink beer.
You don't drink. Like Tim said, you don't drink.
This Bud's for you. Remember that slogan? This Bud's for you. This Bud is for the boxing fans.
Or the way you said Bud. Bud.
The frogs. Yeah.
Bud. Remember that commercial with the frogs?
With the frogs. Oh, man.
The way you said it, Chris.
Bud. This one's for me, Bud. Bud.
Hey.
There's three of us. We could do the Budweiser now.
Budweiser, yeah, for sure.
Budweiser. Yeah.
All right. See, we got to end it like that here on Deepwater. It's always a good time with Tim Bradley, Paulie Malignaggi, and Chris Algieri. Don't forget, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is Deepwaters on ProBox TV, your boxing channel.